Welcome to Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Join us as we dive into the world of automation and manufacturing, bringing you expert insights from industrial professionals and business leaders. Whether you're a business owner, engineer, or simply passionate about technology, this podcast is your go-to source for the latest trends and innovations in the field. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk with R&E. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Today here I have Delta Bravo. It is Rick Oppedisano. He's the CEO and founder. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks, Jordan. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I wanted to get you on the podcast here to learn more about your company, Delta Bravo AI. And can you tell me, how did you start? And tell me more about what you did to get going with Delta Bravo, and how long have you been in business for?
Yeah, so as you know, like AI is all the rage everywhere today, right? But we've been doing this since 2016, so it's been a long time. And I started the business because I just saw this incredible opportunity to restore leadership in the United States to manufacturing. I grew up in an environment. My father ran the oldest military manufacturer arsenal in North America. He worked at a place called the Watervliet Arsenal that was built to serve the War of 1812. So I've been around manufacturing my whole life. I've seen the level of purpose it can give people, the way it can make people feel when it's done well, and what it does for our economy. And so in 2016, I saw this opportunity where manufacturers were starting to struggle. They're struggling with, people transitioning out of the workforce. And that became even crazier after the pandemic. A lot of people just didn't come back. And so you've got this situation now with manufacturers where they're struggling to find good people. Those people learn differently than their predecessors did. That gap between the way the old generation learned and the new generation, the way they learn, that gap can be filled with artificial intelligence. And that's what we do here. We've built a technology platform that allows us to take the data from the manufacturers that they're already creating. So things like PLC data or ERP data, quality data, things like that. Put it all together to create intellectual property, to create predictive models that help that new generation learn faster, be better on the job faster, and quite frankly, enjoy the job more.
Oh yeah, that's great. With how automation has come along. Especially with AI and automation 4.0, the learning curve and the growth for individuals is going to be huge. And if you can have a machine do that, that's even better.
Well, I
Where
think what's well, Tay,
Go
I
ahead.
think what's interesting about it is, again, people have this little fear that they think that AI is going to replace people, and I think that's a little bit misplaced. I think AI is going to help a single person do more, be better at it faster, reduce the time it takes to make somebody good at the job, right? And that's really, I think, an underlying point of all this is that I think at some level, and you tell me what you think. I mean, to me, it feels like at some level, people have kind of lost that connection with purpose. They've lost that connection with pride on the job. They've lost that connection with collaborating with the people that are next to them. They've lost that, that purpose they feel when they're part of a process, when they're collaborating. And I think that with AI, you have this chance to kind of bring a lot of that back. Do you feel that way? I mean, do you feel that, people have kind of lost the love for the work?
Yeah, a little bit. It does kind of happen that way. I mean, sometimes I always find myself embedded into the automation of the system, and it's like, oh, I want to get this to work, and but I've also looked at it as like I always want to be that solution for people to help them solve something. And maybe it's just that communication of like I like to talk to people, but I have noticed some engineers do like I'd rather talk to machines than people, right? So but it's helpful in your career, and it's helpful for a lot of manufacturers to have
Yeah,
that data and
you know,
information.
Say, I think you bring up an interesting point too, where you talk about the idea of the engineers sometimes would rather talk to people. I'm sorry, rather talk to a machine than a person, right? And I think
Mhm.
that you're kind of getting into this point now where the machines are generating so much data that if that data is used the right way, we make this transition from the old way, which is when the people would inform the process, right? The
Mhm.
process would be created, managed, and essentially massaged by people. Whereas I think today you're creating so much data and with the availability of technology like what we do, the process can inform the people, right? The process can be the thing that predicts what's going to happen next. The process can be the thing that says, "Hey, this is what to do right now here in the heat of battle. That's different than what you may have just done an hour ago." Based on real time conditions, real time conditions or changes, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's an interesting time, right? Where we are kind of moving into this new paradigm where the process can inform the people more so than the old way where the people just ran the process.
Yeah. Can it? So with that, is say with the AI, so it tracks like it could track like, hey, you need to do this within this hour, but can it also track long term as well?
Yeah. So what's interesting is, so any sort of predictive models, right? The longer you go out, the lower the probability of that model being correct is, right?
Mm.
And so when you take a look at like the viability of an AI thing, like so where our customers see the most return is really in production, specifically in quality. So what I mean by that, let's talk about one like Nucor Steel, for example, that we work with. So Nucor Steel, the plant in Darlington, it's the original Nucor plant. They make 1,400 different products there. And when the product orders come in, it could be one of 1,400 different product SKUs that all have different recipes. They're all made from the same 13, 15 ingredients that go into steel products, but all the specs are different. And so what was happening at Nucor was after the pandemic, they had a lot of turnover. And the new folks that came in didn't learn the same way that their predecessors did. And they were having a lot of quality problems because these new workers just weren't they couldn't seem to really get the process correct. And so what we did is we went in and we built this AI that in real time says, hey, this is how this metal is coming into tolerance. This is when this is going to happen. If you cut this here, you'll maximize the quality and tensile strength of the product you're making right now, and you'll minimize the steel scrap moving into the next product. And so what this did is it essentially shrank the training cycle for these employees. These guys, it used to take them 6 to 9 months to learn this. Now it takes a week, right? So when you're
Wow.
dealing, yeah. So we think about that for a second. Like when you're dealing with the idea of attrition being a problem for your business, and you know that, man, the last thing I want here is to have to hire somebody, train them for 6, 8, 9 months, and then lose them to someone else that's going to pay them $5 more an hour someplace, right?
Hmm.
And so that's killer, right? And it happens all the time. So, with AI, what we're doing here is saying, hey, the onboarding cycle is going to be way shorter. If that person leaves and you have to replace them, then that process is going to be significantly less painful. They're going to be better at the job sooner, and they're going to learn to enjoy it. People like success, right? People like to be doing things correctly. Right? I don't think anyone
Yes, they
likes
do.
screwing things up. Yeah. And if you can make it easier for someone to do something correct faster, I mean, it's a win-win. You know.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is a win-win. So with implementing your system into quality, what does that entail? I know you said that you're implementing into PLCs, which is programmable logical controllers, but what else would you be implementing it into? Like, would it just be like a quality manager would help run that, or would it be a controls engineer helping implement this? How
Yeah,
how would this be implemented?
that's an awesome question, man. I'll tell you, I love questions like this. So everything is like really use case driven. So let's just kind of go back to that new core use case. All right.
Mhm.
So what we're doing there is we're taking data from the PLC in real time. This is streaming at the edge. Data's coming in.
Mhm.
And that data is hitting a model. That model was made from historic process data, historic quality data that said, hey, this is what a good outcome looks like. This is what a bad outcome looks like for every one of those 1,400 SKUs. Okay. It's also looking at ERP data that tells us what suppliers are in that SKU. What are the specs for that, for that particular product? What are the tolerance ranges? We have quality data in there that tells us the tolerance ranges for how things should progress, right? In order to
Wow,
have
that's
and so
awesome.
yeah, so we put all that together. And when that real time process data hits that model that knows all of that, that model processes it and says, based on these real time conditions, because I mean, machines have some level of performance drift. If you're making, 500 different products in different orders and with different, ingredients and different tolerance ranges, if you're doing that on the same line every day, there's going to be some level of performance drift that varies based on those combinations. So it's really hard for someone to get this right all the time in real time, right? Just by
Mm.
virtue of the level of variation that came before. And so that's what we're doing here. We're actually taking all that data from that. And the way that we're doing it at Nucor is we created what we call an AI co-pilot, which is an interface. It sits on a screen. And as those chemicals come in, it tells them what to do on our screen. And then they just type it into their level 2 application that tells the machine what to do, right? Types it into their HMI,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's being used by a controls engineer, right? So that's one example. Another example is when you just integrate it directly into the machine. So this is something that we were doing at Rolls-Royce. So with Rolls-Royce, we are predicting engine quality problems. Okay,
Oh
and
wow, that's
and
sweet.
oh yeah, no, it's wild.
Hmm.
So we're actually telling them before anything fails a quality test, before the test fails, we're telling them, hey, we within 1 second of the first sign of failure, we're able to discern that accurately, and we use the AI basically sends a script over to their process equipment that pauses the process right there and says, pulls up a little
That's pretty
screen
cool.
cap. Yeah, it does it
Mm.
automatically, and it pulls up
Oh,
a little screen cap that says, process has been paused, anomalies detected in these metrics. Please replace this part and restart your test. And
so you can do
so
that in real time, and then and I mean, literally, if that machine pauses, you could be sending like a text to a director or whatever's really needed to basically say, hey, this is our machine's down because of this, and that's pretty cool.
yeah, we're trending towards a failure. We're trending towards
Mhm.
a negative. So the big thing with Rolls Royce is end of line engine testing. Okay, so they make these
Mhm.
huge engines, Jordan. They're like 10,000 horsepower, 10,000 horsepower. They're
Yeah.
you get fracking, locomotives, marine engines. It's huge, right? And
Okay.
so at the end of the line, they put together these complex engines. They do all this testing and they do this end of line testing. And if that engine fails, has a catastrophic failure in end of line testing, it could cost like $500,000 to $800,000 for that failure.
Dang.
Between the equipment, the man hours, like it's crazy, right? It's a huge deal. Like you don't
Mhm.
want that catastrophic failure. So what we're
Yep.
doing, yeah. So when they start that test, our AI will instantly understand and project what that probability is, what that cause could be, and gives that operator real time feedback that says either A, things are going good, let's keep it rolling, or B, automatically stops it, tells them what's going to trigger that failure, tells them what to do to avoid that failure. And so what we've done is that we've actually reduced end of line engine failure there by over 90%. So
Oh
it's
wow.
yeah, it's a huge
That's
deal.
that's really good. That's really good. I
Millions
mean,
of
that's
dollars.
that's
Yeah.
like yeah, exactly. So it's like well worth to say taking the investment, investing into quality for manufacturers to invest in their quality department using your product in AI and potentially implementing it
Well,
where it's needed or looking into it at least.
yeah, but there's always a catch, right? There's a catch with
Hmm.
everything. And the catch with this is that you have to be collecting data with some level of intent. All right. So
Hmm.
so for example, we have plenty of customers that have PLCs, right? But and let's just say we have a process that's got 5 machines on it. Well, are all 5 of those machines networked? Are all 5 of those machines saving that PLC data somewhere? Not all the time, right? And
Yeah.
so what you want to do is you want to start off by making sure that your data is being collected, so that at least we got something to work with. If you're looking at the stuff that we do really well, like the predictive quality stuff, the stuff we're talking about with Nucor or Rolls Royce, that stuff, you have to have some level of intentional data collection on quality. So in a lot of cases, you'll see customers that just take the quality measurements, they either put them in a spreadsheet or write them down on something, and then off they go. What they don't have any other value. So we need those things to be digital, right? So that we can bring them in and integrate them with the PLC data, integrate them
Yep.
with, another, other people just, are they're just not really thinking about how the data needs to be collected, what type of data needs to be collected in order to do these types of things, in order to have these outcomes. And so, I'll say this is the catch. Like when you think about all this AI stuff, we've done this, what, 90 something times now, close to 100 times. Our customer
Yeah,
base is,
that's good.
our customer base is like, Rolls Royce, Coca-Cola, Builders First Source, BMW, Gulfstream. All right. So we've kind of,
Mhm.
at some level, I mean, continuous process stuff like Nucor, like we're talking about here, Continental. So we've seen a whole bunch of different types of processes. And I would say that if you take a step back at AI, it's about, think about it like a triangle, right? And on one axis of the triangle, what you want to do is you want to create some level of measurable operating margin gain. How can we make more money from this process? Can we do that by improving quality, by improving throughput, by improving equipment reliability? Like, what is preventing us from maximizing our production capability, and how do we measure that financially? How do we, how much money would we save if we reduce scrap by 2%, right? Or improve,
Hmm.
how much more money would we make if we improve throughput by 2%, 3%? Nothing crazy, just little incremental numbers. So number one, think about that. When we think about AI, think about what part of the business needs this help. How can I quantify that? Then take a look at workforce readiness. How can I use data and AI to do the things we've talked about, to reduce those employee training cycles, to make this job easier to learn, faster, more fun, right? And then lastly, if we take that operating margin gain, right, by improving quality or improving throughput, reducing scrap, if we take that, then we couple that with better workforce tools, and then we scale that across multiple products, multiple lines, multiple plants, now we've got competitive advantage. And that's like the next generation, right?
Hmm.
That's the next generation of manufacturers. Someone that can, make turn one person into three, just because ultimately there's just not that many people that are available anymore, and we've got to kind of figure that out. But
Hmm.
the next generation manufacturer is going to intentionally build systems that help people become successful faster, that help production outcomes improve, and then they scale that to create some level of competitive advantage in their particular industry or vertical.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. They're gonna it man, manufacturing is going to advance further, is say with AI involved, and like you said, you're gonna take one person, and or you'll make three people do or one person do three people's jobs basically, right? It's say, but AI, it's AI is going to be involved to help that person do three people's
And
jobs.
they'll
I mean,
enjoy it, right? It's not going to be
mhm,
like, you've got 24 hours worth of work to do in one day. It's going to be, your
yes.
day is stacked up. You've got like this assistant that's saying, hey man, when things get a little crazy around here, here's what to do. All right. And it's going
Yep.
and
I
it
mean, I
and
have an
it's going to be
assistant
right.
like that.
Yeah. Well, makes one of
She's
us.
always bugging at me
Yeah.
to, hey, help out, get this done. Okay, okay, okay. I'm working on it. So I definitely know, and that's a little AI, a little,
Yeah.
I get it.
Does,
So
does she have a sister? Yeah. No, but it's funny. I mean, again, I just look at this opportunity in manufacturing, and I see us at a crossroads. I really see the industry is at a crossroads, because I mean, we see these businesses that go out of business, these manufacturers that close their plants. We're seeing it here in South Carolina. We're seeing it all over the place. And they're closing their plants because they cannot get their arms around cost per unit. They can't compete. Either they
mhm.
they have a cost from a supply chain scenario where their people aren't trained well enough, where the quality is so bad, where the cost of producing whatever they're making is so high that they can no longer compete. And I see that situation um, growing and exacerbating. And I believe that in 3 years, just 3 years from now, there's going to be two kind of manufacturing companies: the kind that work with AI, where it's people plus AI, or the kind that are out of business, that have been sold for pennies on the dollar because they could not figure out cost per unit in a way that allowed them to compete and grow. And I worry a lot about the smaller guys. I worry a lot about the folks that have small supplier type manufacturers that have really old equipment. And what are they going to do? Hire their family? I mean, you know, it's just we're definitely at a crossroads here where people don't really get proactive in this and get intentional around how to use data to create better processes, because that's really what this comes down to, Jordan. It's not really like a technology thing; it's a process thing.
Mhm.
It's how can I use the tools that I've got to make the best process where I can have the highest level of quality with the lowest risk of error, where I don't have to rely on people as much, because they're the hardest part of any business, whether it's my business, your
Yes,
I
they
mean,
are.
they're the hard. So how do we make that people risk lower? How do we make that people experience better? How do we make that production outcome more profitable?
Yeah, and make the employee enjoy their job, because now they have like an assistant helping, or the AI helping them do their job, and they're actually enjoying it. I mean, I definitely know that feeling of, hey, it is helpful having an AI, do stuff for me in the background to, get more accomplished. Um, that is very fulfilling, and I think a lot of people would in manufacturing enjoy that, especially on the plant floor. Seeing that. Yeah, I definitely like to continue talking, say, on this and learn more as we continue on, and we'll have to have you on as another episode. But where can people connect with you and learn more, or reach out to you if they were looking for to deploy some AI
Yeah,
in their manufacturing facilities?
yeah. So our process always starts off with just a conversation, right? I mean, we're not for everybody. That's the
Mhm.
reality. And so, but we like to talk to folks. We like to educate folks, like to tell them stories of what's going on elsewhere and what they're capable of, right? Start to kind of plant those seeds. Um, Check out our website. It's deltabravo.ai. Fill out a contact form there. I always get those, whether I like them or not. I get those.
Perfect.
Also LinkedIn. Rick Oppedisano, Oppedisano, or just follow the Delta Bravo AI on LinkedIn. So yeah, check us out. Reach out. We just we're here to elevate the game for everyone, right? And that's kind of what I'll leave you with. As a founder, my passion. I'm pushing 50 years old here. This is the last job I ever want to have. I want to be able to look back at 10, 15 years of this, 20 years of this, and see that, my ideas, my team's ideas, what we've built together has changed an industry for the better. And so that's where our heads are at. So if people want to reach out, talk to us about that. That's the mindset. It's less about a project. It's more about a program. And it's about elevating the game.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast with me here, and for Tech Talk with Irony Automated. Um, if you need to reach me, as my followers would say, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm located, and I appreciate you, Rick Alpedosano, for coming on. And if anybody wants to get a hold of Rick, please connect with him on LinkedIn. He's got a lot of stories to tell, and he's always posting on what Delta Bravo is doing over there. So I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle, signing off.
Appreciate it,
Thank you.
Jordan. See you, man.